Life is very, very strange the way it interweaves with itself. Coincidence come and strange events come, things that you don't expect. I was looking in the mirror the other day, and this has become more and more pronounced for me, but I noticed how my upper eyelids were drooping, and they have been drooping for some time. But I noticed, and I've noticed this before in my life, that when something sad happens or a very difficult situation, when I come out of it at the other end, on the other side, my face is changed. I do believe that I'm wearing that experience on my face somewhere. And I've noticed that when I was younger, or older people had these sort of drooping upper eyelids. I get the distinct impression that it's sort of the eyes trying to shut. I know that that's a strange way of looking at it, but that's how I experience it. When you see something in life that you don't want to see, that you'd rather not be witness to, you don't want to go through it, you don't want it to be part of your experience, or that it gives you ideas that you're confronting that you don't really want to. It's almost like the feeling of wanting to turn away from it. It's almost like the eyes are trying to seal themselves so that they don't have to be witness to these experiences. And I have to say, with Michael's passing, my beloved, beloved Michael, the father of my daughter, I look in the mirror and I see that I have this sort of, you know, the Greek masks, the happy and the sad. Sometimes I see that sad mask over my face somehow. So that's something that I'm going to have to manage when it comes to makeup application, etc. And what a day to be thinking about it. Wouldn't you know that one of Stephen's old school friends, his name is John. I've mentioned John before. John, he is the lawyer. He lives in a town not far from us. They've known each other for all of their adult lives. He's met somebody new. He's been through a few unsuccessful relationships. Depending on which way you look at it, they may be successful in their own way, but the long and the short of it is that they're not together anymore, him and these women. But he's met somebody new. And Stephen had arranged for us to meet her. They arranged for all of us to meet up tonight for us to meet her. And Steve happened to mention, after all this time, now on the day of meeting, he mentions, oh, did you know that, let's call her Jane, did you know that Jane wears wigs? And I said, I beg your pardon? Did I hear you right? John is going out with a woman. He met a woman who wears wigs. And Steve told me that she has alopecia. Apparently, she has completely lost her hair. And she wears wigs. Well, Steve said to John, well, you know that Karima wears wigs as well and that she's got alopecia, don't you? And John said, yes, I was aware of that. Now, this conversation, it wasn't on my radar that John knew that I wore wigs. Steve always maintained that John wouldn't have noticed whether I turned up in a long brunette or a short black bob. He just wouldn't have noticed. But of course, I knew that he did. You know, sometimes I wonder whether men pretend not to notice stuff so they don't have to go into it, so that they don't really need to think about it. It doesn't really need to be part of their day. But he did know that I was wearing wigs, and I was thinking to myself, wow, this is going to be a really interesting situation. I'm going to be meeting for the first time somebody in my own social circle who also wears wigs. She knows that I do. I know that she does. We're going to be turning up for the first time with these additional pieces on. And I was thinking, well, what on earth am I going to wear? I'm just about to go downstairs and I'm going to dye my hair, because there's nothing worse than side hairs. If I decide to wear a topper, if it happens to separate at the back, you'll be able to see the grey roots, and I don't want that. I want it all to look very natural. I was thinking, how about one of these uni wigs? This is Breeze. This is Breeze Topper in Moose Brown. She is 16 inches, but I took a few inches off her actually yesterday. They're doing work outside. Let me close the window. So I've been feeling more and more actually that 16 inches is a little bit too long for me. I feel like there's too much hair to manage really. So I just, with the scissors held vertically, I kind of cut into the length. You can see I maybe take up a couple more centimeters. And with this one, I decided to cut a fringe. So if I very quickly put her on without preparing my own hair in any way, you'll just get an idea of what she actually looks like. It's amazing what a difference makeup does to your face. So she is actually a lace front, but the lace doesn't really lie flat, so I usually use a sticky. And over time, the stickies do rip some of the hair out, or sometimes they can warp the lace, so it's can be a little bit more visible. Therefore, I thought, well, if you cut a fringe into her, the lace is going to be completely disguised. And actually, I really like the lace. I really like a fringe. Now, you can see just a little bit shorter than 16 inches. So what I was thinking was that she's so lovely. I'm going to wash her because she's starting to separate and to clump. And, you know, dirt in hair does make it do that. So I want to give her a bath and maybe run a little bit of conditioner in her and either straighten her or maybe put a gentle beach wave with my curling tongs. But another kind of look that I really like, depending on what I decide to wear, I'd actually like to wear something very, very simple and some nice sparkly earrings. And I love the look where the hair is slightly away from the face. The earrings, makeup so that I look alive again. But anyway, I just really wanted you to know that this thing was happening today, and wow, what an amazing experience. I'm actually extremely curious to see what wig she's going to turn up with. Will I be able to recognize it? Is it going to be real hair? Does she wear synthetic? Does she stick to her kind of natural color? I happen to know that her hair would be just off black, a soft black or very, very dark brown. I wonder whether she sticks to her original hair color or whether she goes with something that's highlighted. I mean, isn't that the exciting thing about wearing wigs? I could have turned up with this wig this beautiful 14-inch bob, curled with those highlights. Stunning, stunning. Yes, I could have turned up with a wig, plus I've got a whole load of others. But actually, I wanted something where I could look hyper, ultra natural. I want to tell you also that a little while ago, I had a little meeting with my manager. I'm sure I haven't told you this. At the end of the meeting, this was something to do with work, obviously. She said, can I ask you about the pieces that you wear? I've never spoken to her about it, but obviously I go into the office with different styles, different colours. So I said, yes, of course. She said, well, it was my birthday at the weekend and my daughter had taken me out for a spa day and I had my hair up and she'd taken some photographs of the side of my head. This lady's got dark brown hair and she said I could see my scalp, you know, through my hair that was being pulled back. And I just felt so self-conscious and I was wondering what to do about it. And we actually talked it through. I talked to her from top to bottom, you know, from full wigs to toppers, to extensions, even extensions just on the side, for example. And then we started with the sprays and, you know, the topic and all of that sort of thing, giving her lots and lots of advice gained from hard experience of everything. She said her daughter had bought her some root spray. I said, yes, but the root spray comes out wet and it splatters onto your scalp if your hair isn't there. And then you've got this kind of splattered effect on your scalp that then dries and doesn't look good. I said, what you really need is a powder that with a nozzle so that you can direct exactly where it wants to be. A lot of it sticks to the hair, but also the scalp is coloured a little. You know, these are the early first baby steps into hair loss. She is now in either perimenopause or menopause, or maybe making the transition, you know, into menopause. And it's very common for women's hair to start to really thin. And I dare say, even if I hadn't developed this problem that I've got, I may very well have ended up wearing wigs anyway, just for the fun of it. For the fun of it. And as I said to her, it's my mission in life, it's my passion to make hair loss okay for women that come across my path. I feel that it's such a worrying thing for women to experience, and it can be extremely traumatizing, mainly because they resist it so much. And they may have chosen to go down the road of having some therapy for it, being, you know, red light treatment or injections or all sorts of lotions and potions, all of which I'm absolutely not prepared to go through. They get themselves into a real huge state of resistance and fear and just embarrassment. Mortification is a really good word that I think encapsulates all of the different difficult emotions that you experience when you lose your hair. But as I've said before, and if you've come across this video for the first time, I've always maintained that after a certain level of hair loss, no matter what you do, it's no longer going to work. You will no longer be able to disguise scalp on show, as I call it, SOS. Scalp on show cannot be disguised by any spray, by any type of colour that you might dye, whatever remaining hair you have. If you wash your hair or if you're out in bright light, for example, the scalp is going to be not only on show, but it's also going to glint in the sunshine. No woman wants that. I laugh, but I tell you what, I have so much compassion. It goes right down to my marrow for those women of all ages, especially the young ones, to tell you the truth, who've got this problem, who don't need to have this problem. You don't need to have this problem, because not only can you adopt wearing hair, but you can also make it fun. You've got a sort of a shield, and the shield that protects you from other people's judgment is fun, experimentation, creativity, all of those positives. You wear those positives in front of you so that if somebody decides to attack you, you can put up your shield and you can protect yourself as much as possible against their judgment, their condemnation, their ridicule. It's funny, I said to Stephen, what did John say about it? He said, well, he didn't really say much about it. I said, look, when you were talking to him and he mentioned it to you, what did he say? What was your impression about it? And he said, well, I got the impression that he would have preferred her to have hair, but he accepted the fact that she didn't have hair. And he said that it was, what was it that he used? It was something to get used to, or something along those lines. Oh, I can't remember the exact term, but I'll tell you if it comes back to me. They'd obviously met, and he said when she's outside her house, she actually wears wigs all the time. But when they were inside her house and she was at ease, she took her wig off. And I must say, any woman who can do that is already winning in my book, because that's bloody impressive. Because I know what it would take to be dating someone, to meet somebody. They may have already been intimate. I've no idea how it came about. But to actually remove your wig for the first time in front of somebody new, somebody who has never had a woman with hair loss before. I've known his 3 last previous partners, and they've all had absolutely beautiful lustrous hair. And he always mentioned their hair. Kind of just, yeah, what an experience. What a situation. So I'm going to take this topper down. I'm going to wash it now to give it time to dry, etc. And see, with a bit of experimentation, what I can do with it. I don't have to worry too much about rubbing all of the dye off every part of my skin. I only really concentrate on the side bit. There's still a little bit up here, but we'll see. And also the back, because that's where I might be wanting to lift my hair up. While I'm getting ready, one of the things that I wanted to specifically talk through today is something that I haven't mentioned yet. My whole video so far has been hijacked by this revelation that this lady wears wigs. But actually, when I first opened my eyes this morning, I had been dreaming. I'd woken up from a very troubling dream. It's a very common dream, and I wonder whether you ladies have ever had dreams like this, especially at our age, when our youth and our childhood are further and further away from who we are now and our life now. I dreamt that I was in my childhood home, and all of the photographs, the negatives, actually, there were sets and sets of negatives in the drawers, in the cabinets and bureaus, in the bedrooms. I was specifically in the bedrooms. One of the interesting points was that the house was no longer ours. So, well, I didn't have any further claim on the house. Let's put it that way. All of my family have died. I've already told you this, but in the dream, they lived, and they still had connections with the home, or maybe they'd sold the home. So the connection with that home was tenuous. It was tenuous. And for me, I was there as a visitor. This is a recurring dream that I have had for maybe 25 years. It's a recurring theme that I'm passing through, that I don't really belong anywhere. Now, in real life, a few doors down, we've got the daughter of one of our neighbours, and she is about to give birth. She may even have given birth already. I haven't really seen her. She's going through a very difficult time because she's had a very close death in her family at a very, very sensitive time in her life. In the dream, this girl was in my bedroom, and she was occupying my bedroom, and she had access to the wardrobes. Now, even though my family had moved out and had sold the home, they still had a lot of their stuff in the house. You know those sorts of dreams. They're jumbles of emotions. They're feelings that you don't have control over anything, that your relationships with your family members are not solid, they're not stable, they're not really, the family members that is, don't really make very sensible decisions, etc. Very, very common themes for all our troubled relationships. When I woke up from the dream, I was feeling quite sad and disconnected. Everything from my past is really just a memory. No new memories are being created now. Everybody has passed away. And the truth is that I had a very unfortunate experience regarding my inheritance. That side of the family were very wealthy, and because the deaths occurred the way they did, my aunt and my cousin passed away, and my cousin's husband was the only remaining survivor, and my cousin had told me a few years ago that she was leaving me her entire estate, as had been agreed between her and her mother. But by the time she passed away, that will had been changed, and I received a small sum of money when she passed away, as directed by her husband, and he kept the rest. And I was very upset and unhappy about this for a very long time. He was obviously very old, and instead of building a relationship with me where I was prepared to look after him the way I'd looked after her in her age and her in her old age and her infirmity, he didn't know how to have a relationship, and so he used to emotionally blackmail me a lot, until I made the decision that I was no longer prepared to be pulled around by him emotionally with the promise of maybe a little bit of something in the will. First of all, I don't believe in that sort of thing. And second of all, I will not be humiliated that way. I would rather be left nothing and walk away with feeling clean, rather than walk away feeling like I really, really wanted something from him. And who knows whether he would have delivered that thing or not. I had absolutely no guarantees. But the fact is that I didn't trust him. Once my cousin had passed away and he no longer was able to hide behind her, actually his full personality came to the fore in all its rottenness. And you know, the relationship between these two, my cousin's marriage to her husband, could be studied by psychiatry and the psychology department of any university as a very, very strange marriage. So eventually I got word through a text that he had passed away. I didn't go to his funeral. I didn't want anything further to do with him. It's a very long story, and I'm probably not doing it justice. But the reason I'm mentioning it is because I missed out on a lot of money in that experience. Life-changing figure that would have gotten rid of my mortgage, set my children up, changed our lives, transformed our lives completely. And I worked so hard to try and get over it. And I know, I mean, even my next door neighbor has has had problems with her family relationships to do with inheritance, etc. I bet you there are loads of women who are watching this video who also have had a lot of problems with inheritance, and also having missed out, that feeling that fortune has befallen someone standing right next to you but just missed you, is a very difficult event to get over and to accept and to move on from. And I needed to do that, because you can't live in bitterness and regret forever. And I needed peace of mind, and I needed to move on. But the thing is that sometimes the seed or the essence of your difficult emotions just break out in your subconscious through dreams. And when you're asleep, you have no control over what you're going to think about, what you're going to dream about, what's going to come up to the surface in order to be somehow or other resolved by your psyche, or at least brought to the forefront somehow. Many mornings when I sit at this table and I'm getting ready for the day, I think about him and my cousin and how things came to be. It was the last thing I expected. And I didn't know anything about the will having changed until she had almost passed away, and it was far too late to have a conversation with her about it. So now that this has happened, I find myself in a situation where I really need to invent my own life and invent my own path, because what I thought was due to come about is not going to come about, and I need to make it okay. And I also need to be able to look after myself, etc. And I remember lying in bed this morning and feeling quite crushed that somehow or other, despite my best efforts, this memory or this situation broke through into my life yet again when I tried so hard to keep it at bay. And I remember thinking to myself, what am I going to do now? What am I going to do now? How am I going to proceed now? And then the very next thought was, and I quote myself, I'm going to get up, dress up, and show up. And then I remembered where I'd first read that quote. It was on the Instagram of that pregnant girl that was in my dream. So what I'm saying to you is that she had an Instagram account, and it was all about beauty and character and, you know, empowerment and all of that. And on one of her posts, I read, get up, dress up, show up. And I remember being quite struck with that quote. I thought, wow, that's really empowering. That's really positive. Because we know that life throws all sorts of stuff in our way that change our faces and age us and whip our asses and humble us, you know. But somehow or other, along with that bad memory, that quote also surfaced for me. And I thought, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And then, of course, I remembered that we were due to go out and meet this lady tonight. I'm going to get myself ready. I'm going to style the topper. I washed her and dried her outside in the sun. Look at that lovely natural hair. It's better. There's no clumping. It's soft. Do you see how natural the fringe is? Absolutely. You know, if for example I didn't have the fringe, you'd be able probably to see quite an uneven lace front there, but it's quite a thick fringe, so you can't really see anything. And of course, I've dyed my hair. It's amazing. It's amazing that I can go out looking the way I'd prefer to look. So I'm going to get dressed soon, but I just wanted to show you the end result. So just putting a brush through this, actually, because I really like wearing it back like that. And even if I was to tuck it behind my ears, it still gives it that nice sleek look, kind of, you know, under control, if you know what I mean. So another aspect of having this hair back is that you get this lovely swoop. I do love that. I think that's very, very lovely. So Steve, why did you leave it so late before letting me know that this lady also wore hair?
I've forgotten, that's all.
You'd forgotten?
Yeah. Is that not good enough?
Well, it's just a bit surprising. I'm wearing this dress. Painted my nails. I put my ring on.
I'm wearing this shirt and I've cut my nails.
Good. And what do you think she might be wearing? On her head, I mean.
I don't know.
Do you think it'll be a bob? Do you think it'll be something short or something long? I'm so excited to find out.
Well, I would have thought it might be long and black, maybe.
Yeah, that would be nice. I'm very glad that I trimmed this. So much more manageable, I think. I think it was simmer. Maybe one day we'll have to get a closer look. It was very nice. It was a brunette, but it had an auburn tinge to it, which really suited and complemented her skin tone. A nice bob. Can't go wrong with a bob, can you? We had a lovely time.